Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father.
Aw, thank you, Mr. Blow the Picture for me.
What is thy bidding, my master?
Darth Vader, Commander-in-Chief of the Galactic Empire, reborn from the fires of my power. You have done well with the invasion of Earth.
Yes, master.
And yet I sense a great disturbance in the mythical energy known as the Force.
As have I.
So too have the Jedi. While they have fled throughout the galactic universe due to the resurface of the Empire, they seek to return an ally with our old enemy. The great warrior who defeated us in the Great War 15 years ago, and who now seeks to review the Untitled Trilogy. I believe him to still seek goodness in your creator, George Lucas.
There is no more good in Lucas. Any that was left was snuffed out when he made the Blu-Ray changes.
The Force is strong with him. If he reclaims that power, he could destroy us. The Great Warrior must never return, and therefore cannot be allowed to harness the power of the Jedi.
There is darkness within him, Master. You know this to be true as well. Skywalker may have failed to lure to the dark side, but if Jack were to turn, he could prove to be just as powerful an ally.
Yes. Yes. He would be a great asset. Can it be done?
I swear to you, my master, he will join us or die.
Good. No matter the outcome, we do have those who were once his masters become those who will destroy him.
Master Rice Duke, it's been far too long.
You got a lot of nerve coming back here after what you pulled. This power is far beyond what I've ever felt. The dark side, no, light side, something far greater. Not strength nor weakness, but a will that is binding within. Something is very, Very, very strong. Something within you. You have changed.
If you think I'm still of the weak-minded, you better think again.
The old critic, how are you doing?
It's so good to see you!
Yeah, so good to see you. Why are you here? Wait a minute, I should know. I sent for Josh as the pilot. Is that the Falcon?
Well, I figured I'd swing by. Oh, and the Empire's taken over my planet, and on top of that, my droid is captured. Why do you think I'm here?
This is serious shit, Rice Duke.
The situation is a lot more complicated.
So you've come here for the right reason then. Come.
And that's the situation, Rice Duke. The enemy has returned, and the Empire have the Republic on the run.
Unbelievable. And I thought you destroyed him for good.
I thought I did. Christ, this bastard won't die so easily.
If he has indeed returned, this could mean trouble for the other worlds.
We cannot risk the return of the Great War. I can't allow more people to die.
You must do what you feel is right, of course. What choice will you make?
Our main objective is to get the droid. After that, we regroup with our forces, and we retake the planet.
I suggest you try again, Jack. Let go of your conscious self. Let instinct take hold. The Jedi are well organized, but if they're to fight, they'll need a leader to guide them.
What of the Masters?
They can only do so much. If you are to lead, you must learn the ways of the Force as you once did. Learn before you can truly lead.
If that's what it takes, I guess I could take another course. Bear in mind, Master, my skills are a little rusty.
Now we must begin.
Where do we start?
If you are to once again gain the power of the Force, you must first have faith in it. To do this, you must pick up where you left off. Tell me, my apprentice, what was your last review on?
Well, obviously Star Wars.
Right. Well, what's next? Breathe. Just breathe. Now. What do you see? What do you feel?
I see pain, suffering, the future, the dark side, the continuation. The Empire strikes back.
Taking place 3 years after the first film, the Empire is now in hot pursuit of the rebels at full force after the destruction of the Death Star. On the ice planet of Hoth, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, and Chewbacca, played by the original returning cast, face an attack by the Imperial forces and its AT-AT walkers as a defeating battle ensues. As the rebels retreat, Han, Leia, alongside Chewie and C-3PO, escape in the Millennium Falcon, being pursued by the sinister Darth Vader. Meanwhile, Luke travels to the swamp world of Dagobah in search of Yoda, a legendary Jedi Master who trained Luke's previous master, Obi-Wan. And only with the Jedi Master's help will Luke survive when the dark side of the Force beckons him to challenge Darth Vader. But Vader himself has other plans, as the Emperor orders Vader to turn Luke to the dark side. In doing so, Vader captures Han Solo with the help of Han's old friend Lando Calrissian, played by Billy D. Williams, and the badass bounty hunter Boba Fett, played by Jeremy Bullock, and sets a trap for Luke Skywalker to face Darth Vader in the destined duel, only to learn the awful discovery of Vader's true identity.
So, what do you gather on this film?
A sense of lightning striking twice.
Many, if not all, filmmakers state that The Empire Strikes Back is not only the greatest sequel ever made, but it's also one of the greatest films ever made. And it's hard not to agree with that. I will agree that this is not only one of the best sequels, but is it the best movie ever made? Maybe. But it is hands down one of the best Star Wars movies, definitely up there with the original. It is a fantastic follow-up to the first one and raises the bar for all sequels to come. It ups the ante, it's darker and bigger than the first film, it explores more of the galaxy that George Lucas created, and expands on its mythology, story, and most notably, its characters. Luke is probably the most added on in terms of development. He's definitely grown more as a character from the first movie, and he feels more of a leader and an importance to the Rebel Alliance. Plus, the whiny portions of his character are completely out the window.
No, I don't even know what I'm doing here. We're wasting our time.
Well, for the most part.
That is why you fail.
But he's definitely matured. He has much more of a physically built presence, and you can tell his training as a Jedi in between films really shows in this one. Mark Hamill once again nails the part perfectly and makes you believe much more of the hero's journey both in emotional and physical acting. I mean, this guy gets more constant beatings that would give Rocky a run for his money.
You're doing well. But for a hero to go through peril, he must have a purpose, especially for those he loves.
As much as it is the hero's journey, there's also a love story thrown into the mix with Han Solo and Princess Leia, who are improved 1,000-fold as characters. Their chemistry is spectacular. It's funny, smart, snappy, and incredibly emotional and romantic.
I don't think it's time to discuss this in committee. I am not a committee.
And that could be because mostly on and off the set of the entire trilogy, Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford actually had a romantic affair together. And honestly, I can't judge them for that, because on screen, their chemistry and love for each other was that frickin' real.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
Oh, and fun fact from the making of the film, when Han is being sent to the carbon freezing chamber, the original line between the two characters was a classic I love you too line delivery. However, the cast and crew didn't feel like the line was appropriate for the scene, so on one of the takes, the line went like this.
I love you.
I know.
And that's the line they pretty much went with. Why? Because that's Han Solo. He wouldn't say I love you too. He would be snarky about it. He knows Leia loves him, so he just states the obvious. You could tell that the director and actors really wanted to take this relationship seriously, so you gotta give them major props on that one.
You have your moments. Not many of them, but you do have them.
The other returning characters like C-3PO, R2-D2, and Chewbacca are still fun to watch and have a lot of great moments to shine. 3PO can still be quite annoying, but the movie has enough jokes to make it self-aware.
Sir, might I suggest that you...
However, this movie has some great new characters who are incredibly iconic. One of them, of course, is the cool, laid-back Lando Calrissian.
Hello, what have we here?
A lot of people seem to give Lando hate due to portraying his best friend, but you gotta remember that the Empire threatened to enslave and kill the civilians of Cloud City if he didn't turn Han over to them. I mean, what would your position be in this situation? Letting hundreds of thousands of civilians die, or letting one other be the fall? It can be a very frustrating and complicated situation in terms of emotions. And for Lando, this gives him a lot more character depth, and Billy D. Williams really digs the part perfectly. Too bad though he couldn't give the same treatment to Harvey Dent and Two-Face. How did that go again? Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones, you go back to Looney Tune land.
This deal is getting worse all the time.
But one of the most iconic new characters in the movie is Yoda. And holy shit, this old frog is awesome. He's wise, majestic, and can show some great badass moments. And the best part is, he's a frickin' Muppet! Yeah, that's actually Jim Henson's crew operating the damn thing, puppeteered by the legendary Frank Oz, who gives his absolute all in the role. Because of this collaboration, Lucasfilm and the Henson Group ended up working together on other projects, from the likes of Michael Jackson's Captain EO to the David Bowie cult classic Labyrinth.
Tra-la-la.
Hell, Lucas even gave the Henson Group permission to do a buttload of Star Wars parodies on the cartoon show Muppet Babies.
I'll give you a lick, and
an event! An event! Whoa! I knew I should have taken lightsaber lessons instead of tennis lessons.
With all the new heroes to the saga comes a new set of villains, and this movie has got one of the most badass villains of all time with Boba Fett. God, this guy was underused. He's like the Clint Eastwood of Star Wars. Every frame he's on screen, he is just awesome. Just a chilling but cool looking villain. He also has a chilling voice, which the special editions changed for both good and bad.
What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me. What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me.
There are several other iconic new villains in the film, but this was at the point where the franchise was starting to gain more of a following in the toy sales, so these characters were mostly made to sell new action figures.
Well, I can't really blame them for that. I mean, these toys are pretty cool. Yeah, I've got my own collection of action figures, so what? We got you now, Sodo. There's no escaping this time. Not if I can help it, I'll save you, buddy. Pew, 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 pew.
Jack, stop fucking around and get back to the review.
Fine. Joey, I think we need a new hobby. Yeah, I know. If we were at Andy's house, it'd be totally different.
But now let's focus on the Empire. And boy, are they pissed off. With their major weapon now out of commission, they're out for full-on revenge, especially Darth Vader. In the first film, he was like a monster on a leash that was only summoned when commanded. But without Tarkin in command, Vader's power is definitely feared throughout the Empire. Every mistake they make, Vader takes their life without remorse or a second thought. And it's chilling to watch.
Lord Vader, the fleet has moved out of light speed and we're preparing to...
You have failed me for the last time, Admiral.
You can tell that he's obsessed and enraged with finding Luke Skywalker, and it isn't until the ending that we find out his true intentions for the boy.
I want that ship, not excuses.
With the success of Star Wars in 1977 becoming the highest-grossing movie of all time, Lucas gained the finances and respect from the studio to finally start calling the shots, and when they wanted to make a sequel, they gave Lucas full reign to do with it what he will. However, while Lucas produced and scripted the film alongside Lawrence Kasdan, he decided to drop out of directing the film. Enter small-time director Irvin Kershner, Lucas's teacher at the University of Film classes in LA. And honestly, this was a smart move by Lucas. While he was in charge of the story and concepts, giving the reins over to a director who could give a new spin in directing was a brilliant way to give Star Wars a new perspective. Kershner at first was nervous given he never directed a blockbuster, and not only taking over for the highest grossing film of all time at that point, but he persevered and overall succeeded in creating a brilliant sequel. Speaking of creativity, the film does indeed feel much bigger in scope and settings than the first. The sets and locations are brilliant. The location of Hoth especially was shot in the snowy lands of Norway, and much like filming in Tunisia for Tatooine, there were a lot of weathered production problems during the shoot. But this time they were much more prepared. Lucas had quoted to Kershner, "Don't expect things to work," and for the director, that was very good advice. And speaking of Hoth, let's talk about that awesome battle sequence. And boy is it epic! You've got snow speeders flying around, World War II-esque battle trenches, and giant AT-AT walkers marching towards the rebel base. And the best part is, all the walkers were done in stop-motion animation. Once again, the special effects are phenomenal, and they've actually improved since the first film. The walkers, along with the stop-motion tauntauns, were animated by none other than Phil Tippett, who after this film gained a massive following with some other film projects like the RoboCop series and of course Jurassic Park. And all the animation is top-notch in this film. While the first film focused on model spaceships, this film is much more of a stop-motion movie. Hell, in the original Jabba the Hutt scene that Lucas put in for the special edition, Jabba was originally supposed to be stop motion, but unfortunately they had to scrap it because it was too cost effective. So they decided to reshoot it with the Greedo scene. And even in the special edition, it still doesn't make sense because Greedo's in the goddamn background. But Lucas went full out in bringing a ton of stop motion to this film. And the Battle of Hoth is hands down one of the biggest highlights of this film. Once again, the sound stages in London, holding the sets of Cloud City and Dagobah, also look incredibly impressive. The Dagobah set had to be built 5 feet above the floors of the stage so that Frank Oz could puppeteer Yoda on the set grounds. So there was a lot of planning ahead of schedule. John Williams returns to score The Empire Strikes Back, and honestly, the score stands on its own. We all know the classic Star Wars themes, but The Empire Strikes Back has its own themes with the Imperial March. It's iconic, menacing, threatening, and epic to listen to. John also created a love melody for Han and Leia, and that alone is an iconic theme. And of course, there's the theme for Yoda, which I gotta admit is a majestical piece. Actually, as a joke, Steven Spielberg and John Williams created a perfect Easter egg in E.T., where a kid in a Yoda costume stumbles across E.T., and the Yoda theme plays in that scene. Weird. I feel like this is how the Empire found out about our solar system.
Difficult to see. Always emotion is the future.
But yeah, the score is also a perfect piece of material that is equally as impressive as the first.
However, positive cannot be balanced without the negative. If not, it can lead to over-intentions, or worse, the dark side.
You ask if there are problems with the film? Well, while there's not much to say here, the special edition of The Empire Strikes Back actually has the least amount of changes in the trilogy. In fact, I'll say that some of the special edition changes are actually improvements. It's nice to see a full view of the Wampa, for example, especially given the original effect didn't look that good for the most part. And on top of that, it's a practical effect with an impressive man in a suit. Other changes, like the expansions of Cloud City, are kind of unnecessary, but are able to show more of the world. However, it still doesn't excuse the denial of releasing the originals on Blu-ray. But aside from that, there's really not much to complain about. The film is pretty perfect on all accounts. Most of the negative issues come from the Hollywood politics and production walls throughout the making of the film, which you can find on several of the documentaries. But, of course, the biggest controversy of the film is, of course, the twist ending. So at this point, folks, it's time to pull down a spoiler alert.
Hey! Snape kills Dumbledore.
The first thing I want to mention is, of course, the iconic confrontation between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, and this duel is hands down one of the best in the entire saga. Hell, this fight scene made it on my top 10 greatest sword fight videos. And it's not hard to see why it's so awesome. It's emotional, it's powerful, and it's wonderfully choreographed by, once again, the great Bob Anderson, who in this film actually donned the suit of Darth Vader in order to help Mark Hamill in order to make the fight scene more authentic.
Impressive. Most impressive.
But arguably one of the greatest movie twists of all time when it was first released in 1980, it was a shit-bricking shock that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father. Hell, when I watch this scene, I still get the chills.
He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
And not only is it one of the greatest movie twists of all time, but it's also one of the biggest kept secrets of all time.
That's impossible!
During production, there was actually a false page inserted into the scene, where Darth Vader originally said the line, "Obi-Wan killed your father," which in terms of later in the prequels does kinda make sense. However, Darth Vader's true parentage was kept a secret from nearly everyone, even David Prowse and Mark Hamill. In fact, Mark Hamill was only told just minutes before the cameras rolled, and he was told to use his own emotion from the original script in order to make it more believable. And it wasn't until James Earl Jones came into the recording booth that the secret was fully out there. Even James Earl Jones himself said that he thought Darth Vader was lying, and boy was it no lie.
Search your feelings, you know it to be true.
But while it's the film's greatest moment, it's also its weakness. Why? Because it's the most iconic spoiler of all time. There is no way to avoid it, especially since Darth Vader's line is one of the most quoted movie lines of all time.
I am your father.
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 I am your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate.
What's that make us?
Absolutely nothing.
For many newcomers of the series who start with the original trilogy, it kind of ruins the shock and surprise of the scene. Plus, it's hard to duplicate the reaction audiences had in the theater. YouTubers with kids reenacting to the scene, and even films like Reign of Fire and Gulliver's Travels try their damnedest to recreate it.
I am your father.
No, Gulliver. I am your father.
This is an impossibility, yet somehow it seems completely inevitable.
But I'm honestly surprised that there's no audio or video of the audience's reaction from the theaters in 1980, especially since there have been a few recordings of reactions from the original film's release. But if anything, I can kind of imagine the reaction sounding a lot like this.
No, I am your father.
Overall, The Empire Strikes Back is definitely one of the best sequels ever made. While I won't say it's better than the first one, it's still pretty damn close to be. The characters are really damn impressive, the story is full of adventure, suspense, and surprises, the effects and visuals are outstanding to look at, the music is dark and epic, and as a sequel, it not only delivers, it surpasses expectations on all accounts. This was honestly the first Star Wars movie I ever saw, and if you haven't seen the first film, it's still a nice introduction to newcomers of the franchise. And in my eyes, the film gets a solid rating of a 10 out of 10. It's a damn good sequel and a damn good movie. Definitely strike back on this one when you have the chance.
This is your final test. Look for a balance. Feel the force flowing through you, and let it choose your fate.
I don't believe it.
Remember always, the crystal is the heart of the blade. The heart is the will of the Force. BigJackFilms, your training is complete.
Always have faith in who you are.
Shut the fuck up, Grandpa Gohan! Thank you, my friend. But now we must make haste to Earth. Captain Josh! Ready the ship.
You two go on ahead. I will catch up later.
Wait, you're not coming with us? We need you.
Well, someone will have to make contact with the Jedi Council for the battle to come.
I appreciate that. May the Force be with you.
Yeah, you too.
Missed something, did I?
No, nothing much.
Brush it, that is.
Just like the one you just took.